Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for a new series. Why the Last Man? And this is actually going to be season one, episodes 1 through 3. So I believe it's the day before um, the world, what the world would be like, or something like that. And Neil is the third episode. So it's actually in the description of this video. I actually have it down there. I didn't write them down, unfortunately. So before I get started, let me take care of some business first, then we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. Basically, YouTube takes the algorithms, all the stuff you've been watching, tries to match it as best as possible. One of the videos in my vast video library and pops it up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down below there. And if you can, hit that like button, the share button as well. Also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, hit that bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. And basically, the best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it out every week, usually on Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays. Well, right now it's going to be on Mondays. And also, I have all the links to my social media up there and all the links to my pages. So, this YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and chat amongst yourselves. All right. So I'm already seeing from the comments, what is why? So this is based off of a graphic novel not a graphic novel, excuse me. It was a comic. Everyone says graphic novel when they want to be, hoity toity and all that stuff. It was a fucking comic book. Okay. The comic came out from Vertigo, which was one of the DC Comics imprints that no longer exists. From 2002 to 2008, there were 60 issues. And, Brian K. Vaughan was one of the writers, and Pia Guerrera was one of the creators of this series as well. And it takes place basically what this is, and in a nutshell. And this really doesn't give anything away because it's what the entire crux of the series is. You get through it in the first episode, but there's basically it's called Anderside, is what it is. One um, gender dies off completely. So all the males on the planet die off, and all that's left are females. Um, except for one guy and his monkey, who happens to be also male as well. And that's pretty much the crux of it. And the world kind of going to shit in a way, but then also how it's going to build itself back up with only women left. And again, this is before the pandemic came out, before the pandemic arose. This book, was there. And there's some issues that were in the comics that are making their way over into this series as well as new stuff that wasn't around when the comic was around that's making its way into the series. Now, with that said, so for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, I'd say go away now at this point. So now, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episodes. If you haven't seen them, you can go and watch them. Then you can come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Am I giving you enough time? Yes, I think I am. All right. So this show actually had a huge hurdle getting into production. I believe they tried for about 5 years to get this thing. First, it was going to be a movie. Then it was going to be on Netflix. Then it was going to be on Amazon. Then it was going to be on here. It was going to be there. And it kept bouncing around all over the place until finally it found it home on FX on Hulu. Everything seemed great. They started filming until the guy who they hired as the lead, Yorick, up and quit. And so they had to rehire somebody and go back and refilm the first, I believe, 4 episodes, I think, somewhere around there. And actually, the guy that they had hired, I really didn't like the looks of him anyway. So this guy that we have now, who is, and I'm looking at him right now, Ben Schnetzer, actually is pretty good. So does he look like York from the comics? No, not really. But he's actually pretty good. He's doing a great job. Also, we have Diane Lane, who plays his mother, who's also now the female president of the United States. Olivia Thirlby is his sister. Hero is her name. And Olivia Thirlby, by the way, who is in the great movie Dread, she played Judge Anderson, which I want to see more of her, Judge Anderson, because she did such a great job, and I want more of her. And Ashley Romans, who plays Agent 355, who is she's a member of a covert organization that was just called in at the last minute, the day before the president dies, to be near the president because there was a credible threat going on. And so she was posing as a Secret Service person when all this shit went down. And yeah, man, when you see everyone kind of die, and you're seeing it through Hero's eyes in New York City at one point, in the first episode, at the end of the first episode, I'd read it, I've read it in the comics. So I read the comics way back, after they finished, after 2008. I want to say it was 2009 that I read the entire series, but you don't get that kind of I guess impact of it until you watch it on the screen. So that first episode is really, really good. You kind of get the setup of the characters, and then you have the whole gut punch, if you will, of pretty much everyone dying all at once, all these guys dying all at once, and the women around them going, "What the fuck? Are we next?" And they're running, and they don't know what to do, and planes are crashing, cars are crashing, things like that. And yeah, it's just that whole chaos of what the fuck happened. So now, and then episodes 2 and 3 are basically, you know, the president trying to find her daughter in New York City. So she sends Agent 355 in, and she finds Yorick after 60 days. So after the first 60 days, she finds him on like day 63, 64, somewhere around there, and brings him in to his mom, of course. And they have to keep it a secret because she being the president, there are people already gathered outside the White House gates thinking there's a conspiracy anyway. And if her son's the only one that survived, of course, there's going to be ape shit stuff that goes on because, as they said, they don't want another Russia. And in Russia, what had happened was there was propaganda that went out that the 12 heads of state of Russia survived, and all the women outside the Kremlin crashed through because they wanted to see them. And of course, it was propaganda, and they ripped apart the fucking Kremlin and pretty much burned it to the ground. And no one heard back from Russia ever since. So, of course, they don't want the same thing happening in the United States. In the meantime, she's also just trying to keep the infrastructure going, like getting the power, keep the power up, getting food out because people are starting to starve, things of that nature. And you're starting to see of just the population being cut in half, if you will. What kind of just what kind of problems would exist. So this is the one thing. If you go back and take a look at Marvel Infinity War, when Thanos does his snap and gets rid of half of the population of the universe, uh, you don't see this on Earth. Like, what would happen if you lose like immediately half the population? And this is where you kind of see the aftermath of that, just a little bit of it, a little bit of inkling of it, and it's actually pretty frightening. And you also see they start bringing in also in this series, which I wasn't a big fan of, current politics that are happening, with the anti-vaxxers and things like that, injecting in. But I could see how they had to, because it is current events and they had to update it a little bit. So you do have the Republicans versus Democrats thing, and the hardcore, QAnon people and all that kind of bullshit that are happening as well. Also, and there was a very subtle little thing that was put in there. One of the people protecting the president, she looks up at this woman behind the woman's ear, and she's got stars, 3 stars tattooed in the back of her, behind her ear, which is a how shall I say this to be delicate about it, but it's basically people that are that want to overthrow the government, that she's part of that group. And this is the person that is protecting her, supposedly protecting her. So they set this whole thing up. You can tell where things are going at this point. Philip Ademic says the trans men's actors they cast don't make convincing born females. I don't know if they were supposed to, honestly, Philip. I mean, you also have that whole thing that they kind of just touch on briefly, yes, about the trans men's that are there that are running out of testosterone, and but they're also getting harassed out in the street about having to ask all these questions about are they men or not, kind of thing. And yeah, it just was. I'm sure they're going to delve into it more, but of course they wanted to get on with the story, so that's okay. It's not the best of series, but it's also not the worst. It's actually pretty good. It's pretty damn good. Mark says, "Why Hulu though? Another crap streaming spot I'm going to need to get for one show because I don't know if anything else is good in there." Actually, Hulu has What They Do in the Shadows. If you haven't seen that yet, which is fucking hilarious. Modoc, which you can skip because Modoc is pretty shitty, and they have a whole bunch of movies on there too, like first run movies. But they have commercials. Just get the commercial one. I believe they just bumped it up $1, so it's $6.99. Or if you have Disney Plus, you can bundle it with the ESPN thing for, I want to say it's like $15. So if you're into sports and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Justified's also on Netflix now too, Apple, if I remember correctly. Legion, of course, is only on FX. Oh, that's right. Orville season 3, the final season of Orville, is supposed to be on FX as well, whenever that comes out. So if you're a fan of that, of Star Trek, I mean, of Orville, it's there. So, good cast of characters. I'm loving Agent 355, by the way. So, I don't know where I've seen Ashley Romans before, who plays Agent 355, but I want to see more of her, quite honestly, because she's actually a badass, and I just like the way she acts, quite honestly. So, yeah, definitely want to see more of her. And of course, Diane Lane is awesome as always, and Olivia Thirlby is great as well. Especially with what happens to her or what she does right before all this shit happens. She's having an affair. She's an EMT, and she's having an affair with her partner, who is married and has a newborn daughter. And literally hours before all this shit happens, she accidentally kills him in the back of their ambulance. They're having an argument, and she throws an oxygen tank at him, and it cuts his throat and his carotid, and he dies. And she's sitting in the fucking ambulance overnight. A cop comes finding the ambulance where they had parked it because it was reported missing. And as the cop is looking, knocking on the door, all of a sudden the cop stops, and she opens up the door, and the cop's dead in a pool of blood. So whatever this thing is that is killing people, it makes men bleed out of their eyes, their nose, and their ears. Basically, their brain hemorrhages, and they die. And it's just pretty immediately they die. And when she goes out into the street, and she's got the dried blood of her partner on her because she stopped, she tried to stop the bleeding and everything. And that's when all hell breaks loose. I mean, you're seeing the plane come down, you're seeing cars crash, all these people start dying, all these men start dying as they're driving or they're flying planes, all this stuff. And yeah, you see how male centric a lot of jobs are. I mean, even when Diane Lane, as the president, is trying to get nuclear reactors to stay online, there's only one person they can actually rely on, and that woman is so devastated by the loss of her sons that she's like, "Fuck it, I'm out of here," and she has to convince her to come back and basically train other people, other women, in order to run these reactors. And that's a great scene as well, too, by the way. So there are some really good scenes in this. Oh, again, what aren't the great scenes that is when they start delving into the politic portion of it. You have the daughter of the former president who died, hardcore Republican, and of course, he had the white supremacist vote. Sound familiar? Yeah. So she's trying to take over in not so subtle ways, that kind of stuff. and she is building her own little faction within the White House walls. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that's playing out in this, and it ends the third episode ends with Agent 355 taking Yorick and Ampersand. So Ampersand is the Capuchin monkey, who's a little shit, by the way. I mean, he just really is. He gets in trouble quite a bit, or gets Yorick in trouble, I should say. And they're going to go after a geneticist who is out in Boston, and there are only a handful of people that knew that Yorick was alive still. Yorick and Ampersand. Two of them were pilots, and one is an assistant of the president, who she brought her in, which Agent 355 did not like at all. So as Agent 355 is making the decision to take Yorick and Ampersand with her to go and find this geneticist, she has the pilots flying another helicopter, and she sabotages the helicopter. You can tell she sabotaged the helicopter to go down. So with the two pilots killing them to keep the secret. And it's like, fuck, what won't she do in order to keep this secret intact and also to protect him? And the answer is quite a bit. So yeah, it's a good series so far. Again, it's only 3 episodes in. Every Sunday night at 9 p.m. they're going to release a new episode. So I'm going to cover it on Mondays is what I'm going to do, just because I know I don't want to cover it at 10 p.m. Quite honestly, I'm going to be in bed then because I'm going to work the next morning. So I'll cover it on Mondays. That's what I'm going to end up doing. Mork says, I lost a lot of love for the Orville. I'll watch it, but to me, it got boring with all the focus on Boris in his couples counseling episodes. What, you didn't like the whole piss joke episode? That was nothing but one long stream of piss joke episodes. Philip says Ampersand is going to have to help repopulate humanity. Poor monkey. Yeah, I know. So yeah, this is everyone's saying, why are you having a show about the apocalypse or the pandemic come out now? Well, it was supposed to come out a couple of years ago, and it just so happens that it finished now, and that's when they released it. So yeah, shit happens. That's what happens. Yeah, it's good so far. Again, I'm hoping they tone down the politics portion of it, which I know they're not going to. They're going to keep it in there. And yeah, but it's good. It really is. Yeah. Apocalypse show delayed by the apocalypse. That's true. It was. It really wasn't. It was delayed more by the person who originally was cast as Yorick and then, bailed on the show. And then also just taking forever to get to screen, really trying to home. And that's really what the problem was. Otherwise, it would have been on air probably about 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm trying to think of who else is in here. So yeah, and Hero, by the way, has a big mom complex. Even with the apocalypse happening, she still doesn't want anything to do with her mother, even though she knows that her mother is president. And yeah, her friend Sam, who's trans male, says, fucking contact your mom so we can get some food and water. And she won't do it. That's the whole thing. And finally, at one point, Sam is left behind with only 2 weeks supply of testosterone because the other trans males have taken the rest of the testosterone and left. And he stayed behind for her. And he tells her, you owe me. And so, of course, they're going to try and find a way to get to her mother after New York City has been closed down. So New York City, basically, the military is trying to evacuate everybody, but not everyone wants to leave. That's the other thing, too. You have stuff like that going on. And they're trying to consolidate people into different areas so they can actually feed them, clothe them, shelter them, all that kind of stuff. And because the resources are running thin at this point. At one point, I believe one of the chiefs of staff now says that they only had coal enough for like a week's worth of running power plants. So yeah, there's some dire shit happening. They've accelerated this quite a bit more than the comic, time wise, but we'll see what happens now. You know, and also in the comic, Yurik actually does get sick in the beginning. He ends up, getting headaches. He gets nosebleeds and whatnot, and he's at home basically kind of bundled up for like about a week, and then he comes out of it and he's okay. But he did feel the effect of whatever happened, and then he comes out of it. So, and I do know how it ends from the comic. I'm not going to spoil that for anybody. Uh, I barely remember how the comic went. But I do know what the end of it is. I remember the ending of it because the ending was pretty fucked up too. I mean, the whole series is pretty fucked up in general, concept wise, but it's good. It really is good. Philip says the last scene of episode 3 was telegraphed, but I like that made Yurik even more nervous, as in even less people. Yes, exactly. I agree with you, Philip. It was totally telegraphed. We knew exactly what was going to happen when, hey, you take that bus over there. We're going to take this bus over here. you know, yeah. You people that we said we're going to be safe. Just take that bus over there. We'll be okay over here. Penn says, do you think some channels will call it woke? Because, well, just because you mean it's female centric? Yes. There are certain channels of, let's just call it what it is. There's going to be a lot of misogynistic channels out there that are going to call it woke or, well, that's what you get with a whole bunch of women. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck them. That's all I can say. If you're watching those channels, you're getting what you're paying, what you're looking at. I mean, you know what you're going into when you're going to those channels, and why bother? I mean, do you need that kind of misery? Unless that's your point of view and that's what you like, go for it then. Yeah. Honestly, if you can't watch something and make your own judgment off of it, and you need somebody else like me to tell you this, I mean, you kind of need to have, check a little bit about what your own values are and what your own beliefs are and what your own opinions are, quite honestly. I mean, I'm here just really to talk about this. I want to talk about this with people. I'm not trying to sway your decision one way or another to watch it or not watch it. I'm just saying what I think about it, honestly, and from my point of view. And I want to discuss it with other people and see what they want to, what they got out of it. And that's pretty much all I'm here for. Again, like I said, this whole channel exists because of the whole old comic book store vibe that I have, where you go in and you talk to people and you get their opinion about things. You talk about all kinds of shit, and you basically respect each other. If you don't like something and someone else does, or someone calls it shit, you just walk away. That's all you got to do. Yeah. Penn says, I don't have time to watch crap, so I really appreciate Is It Worth My Time? Thanks. Applecrow says, let's just say the comics have a lot of lesbian sex, but that was only one of the minor reasons I kept reading it. Yeah, Applecrow. Uh-huh. Philip says, I like this show having many worldviews fighting each other. Yes. Yeah. Mork says, yeah, just focus on the show, leave personal or group agendas for other channels, enjoy the show and keep it fun. Exactly. That's what I'm here for. If you notice, I keep a lot of politics out of this. I mean, every now and then I might mention something on a side or something like that. That's about it. That's about as far as I'm going to go into politics, unless you're talking about, and it's not even politics, vaccinations and masking. That's science. I mean, that's just fucking science. That's not politics. So, and since I have a science background, go figure on that one. I do find it funny though that York is wearing a full face respirator and all that, and you know, dude, that's got an exhalation valve. You're going to contaminate everyone else. I'm sorry, it's just one of those things. Was he fit tested before he wore that? Because I mean, he could pass out. He also had a beard while he was doing it, so he never really got a good seal around the, you know, around the neck and all. Sorry, these are the safety things that, you know, safety people talk about. If you have a full beard while you're trying to wear a full face respirator like that, they literally make you shave your beard before you put it on because it doesn't get a tight seal around your face. Yeah, we actually used to on the every safety truck that I know of that goes to a you know, any hazmat truck has literally razor blades, like disposable razors on board the truck, just in case your guy shows up who's going to go in for the hazmat situation, has a beard or something like that, and you're like, shave that shit off before you put that mask on. So Mork says, all I've learned from Dennis is that pants are optional, to wear masks, and people should wash their ass. Exactly. And their hands too. Because remember, if you're washing your ass, you should wash your hands too before you eat. Because you know where your ass has been. Well, sometimes some of you do. Some of you don't. You gross motherfuckers. Did they mention the amulet at all? They did not. Apple Crow. They showed the amulet, but they didn't mention it. Yes. Philip says, why didn't he shave the beard to hide his gender? Because he had a full face mask on. He didn't need to, and he had a hood on over him. In the comic, they actually played with this a little bit more, and he actually tried posing as a woman in order to get food and all that stuff. He kept the helmet on and the hood on and everything else like that, and he almost gets killed at one point. So they kind of alluded to it in the series here when he's talking about that. She goes, well, Agent 355 says, well, they were handing out food and water. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I tried that once. He goes, it ended up pretty badly. So they kind of alluded to it. They just didn't show it. Because that was in the comic. Applecrow says, since the comic never gave a direct answer, I was wondering if they would leave the supernatural one in the show. There really wasn't a supernatural ending to it, Applecrow. There was a scientific explanation for it. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah. And I think mainly that, Philip, it had to do with budget. That's the reason why they didn't show it. If you notice, whenever you see groups of people outside rioting and stuff like that, it's usually on the TV and it's small, and you only have like a couple of people, like I would say maybe 10 people at most that are filming that scene. They make it look like more. And then also when the camps are outside, you see a lot of shit outside in the camps, but you never see a lot of people. You hear people, but you never see a lot of people outside the camps, you know, outside the gates, things like that. You never see more than, I think the most we ever saw was in the ready room there. And you've got like about 25, 30 people, somewhere around there. I think that's the most people you ever see in one of the sets. And again, it's because of budget. You don't end up on FX on Hulu with a large budget. On FX, you get a bigger budget. FX on Hulu, you get a smaller budget. Hence the reason why the Orville is on FX on Hulu. There you go. So with that said, what else do I have going on this week? Well, tomorrow is going to be Is It Worth My Time? And this time around, yes, I'm breaking from the genre format, and I'm going to go and talk about Kate, the Netflix movie Kate with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Wednesday is going to be Marvel's What If, new episode of Marvel's What If. Thursday and Friday I'll be off. Saturday will be Saturday Morning Blast stuff, where I take the genre news of the week and enter genre stuff you guys want to talk about, and we talk about it. Sunday is going to be spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. It's new time at 6 p.m. because 1 p.m. just doesn't work for me. Sorry, it just really doesn't. So, and then of course, Monday rolls back around to a new episode of Why the Last Man. How many episodes this season of Why the Last Man, Philip? 10 episodes. So you've already had 3. Yes, you already had 3 episodes. So we have 7 more left. Apple Crow says, I remember Vaughn saying they knew which one was real, but weren't going to say which one it was, or something like that. I remember them actually saying what it was in the comic. Apple Crow. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've read it. But yeah. And that damn monkey ampersand, that's all I can say. I feel like David Schwimmer talking about a capuchin monkey. Remember that whole debacle? Never mind. So, with that said, thank you to everybody joining me today in the chat, and thank you if you made it this far in the video. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching, tries to match it as best as possible to one of the videos, my vast video library, and pops up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down below there. Also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it out every week. Also, all the links to my social media and my pages are on there as well. And that's all I got for you. Yeah. So with that said, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may wind up with a helper monkey who's not really that much of a helper. He's kind of an asshole. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again tomorrow for Is It Worth My Time? Until then, stay safe, be well, take care, wear those masks, get those vaccine shots, and stay safe out there. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.